It is my honor, privilege, and pleasure to introduce to you the Ambassador of Ukraine to the United States, Her Excellency Oksana Markarova. Ambassador Markarova accepted or received this appointment on April 20th, 2021, less than 1 year before the beginning of Russia's second full-scale invasion and unprovoked war on Ukraine. Since then, over 17,000 civilians have been killed or injured, tens of thousands of children kidnapped, and some 6.3 million Ukrainians are refugees. Ambassador Markarova embraced her role with vigor, effectiveness, and results. She has a weekly presence on major media outlets such as CNN, Face the Nation, Meet the Press, Fox News, and others, makes numerous daily public appearances to include the State of the Union address, and works closely on the highest level with all branches of government, including the Senate and Congress, to secure aid and ammunitions, develop business relations, and provide humanitarian support for Ukraine. In DC, along with her husband, Daniel Volonets, she opened Ukraine House in Kalorama, where she works with and warmly hosts business, civic, and government organizations, cultural exhibits, Ukrainian soldiers and children undergoing medical rehabilitation in the United States, as well as Americans in the community who've tremendously supported Ukraine. Prior to her current appointment, she had extensive public and private sector experience, which has been posted on our website, so I'll just highlight it very briefly. She served for 5 years in the highest level of Ukrainian's Ministry of Finance, including being the Minister of Finance. She co-authored Ukraine's macroeconomic revival program, conducted unprecedented fiscal consolidation, and structured and coordinated 2 International Monetary Fund programs. Prior to her career in public service, she spent 17 years in private equity and financial advisory management positions with leadership roles in the ITT Investment Group, Western INS Enterprise Fund, the World Bank, among others. She holds a BS and MS degree in environmental science from Kyiv-Mohyla Academy in Ukraine and an MPA in public finance from Indiana University. She is married with 4 children and a grandchild. And on a personal note, I first met Ambassador Oksana 1.5 years ago here at the University Club, where she was also awarded an honorary University Club membership. She gave such an eloquent and powerful speech. A University Club member approached me afterwards and said, "Wow, Natalie, if I were Putin, I'd be shaken in my shoes." And I agreed. The ambassador represents the fierce force, determination, and strong resilience of the Ukrainian people. Let's give a warm Rotary welcome to Her Excellency, Oksana Markarova.
Thank you very much, Natalia, or as we say, Natalka in Ukrainian, for this really warm welcome. Unfortunately, where we stand now, we still, all of us, have to do much more in order to shake finally, these people and make them retreat and stop the aggression against not only my country, but the global order and everything all of us hold dear and sacred for us, freedom, dignity, just the ability to live in the world which we and our generations before us were building, peaceful, targeting the real challenges, the challenges of how to learn for our study, educate our kids better, how to make our countries more prosperous, how to help each other, how to prevent the climate changes, the negative ones, and how to embrace those changes that we cannot. And unfortunately, while we were focusing on all of that, one very evil person in Kremlin was planning to restore the Soviet Union, which is a long time dead. It's the empire building is an exercise from the past. But unfortunately, as much as we all thought It's difficult to imagine it. He has done it against the state of Georgia in 2008. He has done it before that when Russia attacked Moldova and other places. He has done it when he ordered to down the MH17 peaceful flight. He has done it to Syrians when he has helped the regime and sent his troops, the very well-known Wagners, who now we all know who the thugs are, to kill innocent people in Syria, and then attacking Ukraine in 2014 and 2022, again, after we have tried everything to find a diplomatic solution. Now, it's a very critical time, but before I go into a little brief for you on where we are, what do we need now, why we need it, and what we can do together to actually get to peace, to just and lasting peace faster, I just want to say thank you to everyone in the Rotary Club, and especially to the Rotarians here in Washington, D.C. You have done so much. I know that, individually, as the group, every chapter, I think the Rotary in Ukraine is one of the most active clubs. So everything from, helping children, helping people to relocate, helping people to move back, the humanitarian support, all of that, regardless of how big or small, is very much appreciated. And I want to thank you for this from all Ukrainians, really. Thank you. Please continue supporting it. And if it's not even a monetary contribution, but just a helping hand or a letter sent to your friends, all of that is very, very valuable, especially as we enter soon the third year of this horrible war. And it's almost 10 years since the war started in Ukraine in 2014. It's longer than World War II. Think about it. So where we are now, almost 2 very difficult years. We have been able in 2022 not to allow Putin to have his blitzkrieg. Ukraine did not fall in 3 days. Ukraine did not fall in a couple of weeks. More than that, Ukraine has been able not only to stand up to Putin, but also liberate 50% of what he has occupied since the beginning. And when we were able to liberate that in 2022, unfortunately, all of us have seen the horrors of what happens under occupation. In Bucha, in Izum, in so many places that the majority of people here did not know they ever existed, Bucha is my hometown. And it's a very nice suburb of Kiev, very picturesque, very quiet, with sanatoriums, people biking, resting, and now it's a symbol of torture and rape and mass graves and horrible experiences of so many, and losses. Thousands of people were killed only in Bucha, 37 kids in Bucha and the area. We will never go back fully to what it was before this invasion. But also, every day there are either rockets flying into Kiev, Kharkiv, and other places. It's not just Russian missiles anymore. It's Iranian-made Shahed drones. It's North Korean ballistic missiles. So the axis of evil is actually coming together and helping each other. And Hamas openly visits Moscow, and they're hugging as the best friends. And it's time for all of us in the democratic world to do even more united efforts, to stay together, to double down, to do what they do not expect us to do, is to show that democracies are stronger than autocracies. Yes, they don't have elections, so when they have so-called elections, we know who stays in power anyway. So they think they can plan better than us. They think their planned economies can faster become a wartime economies, but we know that it's not sustainable. We know at the end of the day, they cannot deliver to their people and they will not be able to win this. We will win it. We have to win it. But the time is of the essence now. The question now, can we sustain the effort? In times when more than dozens of countries will have elections this year. And it's good. This is what we fight in Ukraine for. Democracy is good. But we also have to understand that we have to show that we can be democratic, we can be open for this change, we can fight for this change, and at the same time, stay focused on what is important for all of us. So right now, the main goal for us is to have the continued support from the United States. You know, the hard discussions on the supplementary budget that goes in Congress. Natalie said I work including on the Hill, but actually this couple of months feels like I only work there, and I spent every day time on meetings and phone calls and all the events with our colleagues, and we do still have very strong bipartisan support. So if the bill is introduced, I'm positive that American representatives, American senators, supported by American people who support us in this because they see it for what it is. It's a great injustice. It's an unjustified, unprovoked war. It's an attack on our homes, on our way of living, but also an attempt from Putin to redraw not only the borders of our country, but the rules which were put in place after the World War II, which denied the right to so many autocrats to even think about, you know, maybe we can do that. Maybe we can attack a peaceful neighbor. Maybe we can conduct a genocide and get away with it. And our answer should be resounding no. And for that answer to be resounding no, we do need that support. You know, the 61 billion that the administration proposed, you know, for continue the defense assistance, the direct budget support, which is going to be much smaller. It's decreasing actually, but the military support is very important. And a little bit more in like energy support and you know, the rebuilding support is very important. And together with the support from the European Union and other friends and allies from Japan, UK, and today we have a high-level visitor from the from the European Union to Kyiv, and we have heard loud and clear that European Union will stay the course, that they will approve more than 20 billion euro in defense support, and also this 50 billion big package for 4 years, which is going to be reviewed on the 1st of February. And pray, ask, work, and keep the fingers crossed. You know, we do everything. But we really all the eyes now on the Hill. And I if I can ask you to contact your representatives now and to tell them how important it is for all of us. Because it's, again, for us, it's existential. There is no question about it. We know what's at stake for Ukraine. Not only the existence of us as the country, free, democratic European country that voted in 1991, 92% of Ukrainians voted to be independent. All of us, everywhere, including Crimea, by the way. And it didn't change. You know, we just want to live peacefully in our own country. But it's not just about the state, it's about all of us. Again, I don't need to remind you about Bucha, but it's clear that physically, all of us will be killed and liquidated and tortured because we cannot even imagine living under occupation again after so many generations of Ukrainians fought for independence, literally died in Siberia, died on the front lines of so many wars. And now for the past 32 years, finally, we have our own country, that we can do what we want to do. We can elect our government officials and change them on the regular basis. President Zelensky, who is a great leader, who's leading us now, but he's already our 6th president since during the past 32 years. And Mr. Putin didn't change during these times. I mean, that little shift with so-called President Medvedev, you know, was just to allow Mr. Putin to come back again, you know. So it's just two different worlds. And our world, which is so much like your world, which is based on the same love to freedom, to the you know, independence, to God, to children, to families, to just normal things, you know, something that makes us all human, is so important for all of us. So it's very difficult time. The war is still winnable. And this is my, you know, we know now what to do. The level of uncertainty is actually much less now than it was in 2022. And frankly, we didn't know what Russians' exact plans are. We didn't know how much and how professionally they can do. Remember, we all thought this is the second largest army in the world. We didn't know how strong the European and American and other support will be. We didn't know how long we can stay the course. It's difficult during the winter with blackouts, with constant attacks on civilians. But now we know that just with continued support, a little bit more weapons and sanctions to Russia and weapons and support to us and prayers and all the support that you can provide to us, we can win this. And it's very clear, and our military is working on such a organized and really daily basis now. And I think the lessons learned from this, and I want to close my opening and just have more on Q&A and answers. Ukraine can be a solution to so many global problems. What this war has also shown is how vulnerable we all are. We thought that if we are nice, and that's, I'm putting my private equity / Minister of Finance hat now, we thought that if we trade with people, if we provide them with opportunities to actually live better, that they will also believe that peace is better. And unfortunately, we see that these people who we thought are building, again, also market economies like Russia or other countries, that they could be motivated into better policies. Unfortunately, we see how they're using all of that. They're weaponizing it, from energy to supply to food to everything else, when they need to attack us simply for their imperialistic, autocratic ambitions. So I think it's also for all of us who either are in business or were in business or will be in business, it's also a wake-up call that we have to take values into account and into equation when we plan the development, that we can rely upon suppliers. And this is where Ukraine comes into the picture. We could be, with our 30% of the black soil globally, with our rare earth minerals, with our highly educated people engineering, and you see how many drones and the new technology, military defense products we are actually producing in Ukraine. We liberated the Black Sea in 2023 with our own maritime drones. Now, who 2 years ago even thought that you could effectively combat with another navy without having a navy yourself? We have the navy, but we didn't have the ships. We only started the program with the United States, by the way, with Coast Guard receiving, we had this mosquito fleet concept, and we were receiving the first island boats, but it was nothing compared to the mass that Russia had. And then when we downed the Moscow ship, and then others, and it's more than a dozen now, and keeping them under constant threat, they are no longer controlling the Black Sea like they used to. We don't need their permission, actually, like we did a year ago to have the grain corridor, which they negotiated with UN. We can do it on our own. These lessons learned, this new product, these new services are going to be very useful for all of us in order to deter other aggressors, other potential autocrats, and again, the business opportunities. After we win, rebuilding Ukraine is going to be one of the most inspiring projects, not just for us. For us, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. This is what our people dream about. But for everyone, this is going to be one of the fastest growing economies in the middle of Europe, and we can all benefit from it. And we are I'm meeting with business associations now, probably as often as I meet with Pentagon, because we need companies to start thinking and putting Ukraine on the map now. Ukraine want to be part of European Union, part of NATO, part of the transatlantic civilized family, but not just to get something. We also will have so much to add and to give and to share with all of our friends that we actually can maybe, after this horrible tragedy and horrible experience and healing that we all will have to go through, will also create something new and beautiful and secure and peaceful after all is over. Thank you again for all your support, and please stay the course with us and support us as much as you can.
Thank you so much for your presentation. You're speaking to a pretty educated and informed group of people in this room, but many in our country get all of their information about what's going on from a 3-minute segment in the nightly news. Is there a message that you would have us carry forward? What should Americans understand about this example of modern imperialism?
Well, first of all, in 2022, you have seen news about Ukraine on a daily basis in the media. And it has, there were so many reporters on the ground. And actually, that was one of the game changers, that people were so informed and supportive because they saw what happens there. Of course, right now the situation is different. You don't hear or see Ukraine. Frankly, I'm traveling throughout the US, and I was in one of the Midwest states where at one of the meeting, people literally asked me, is the war still going? So I think if anything, I would say stay informed. And we are trying to get as much information out. If you are not afraid of getting many messages per day, get on the mailing list from the embassy. We are sharing all the official information because you know how media also works. There is nothing wrong about it, but it's only when it's something really big, really good, or really bad. When it's and war is unfortunately not only very difficult and horrible, but also very routine and kind of like daily fight exercise. But it's still important to understand it. It's still important to realize where we are going, why, what is needed, and why it is important for all of us. Now, if there will be one message that I want you to please know, that it's horrible and difficult, and it's a full-fledged war, regardless of what you read or not read in the press. And at the same time, it's still a very winnable war. And if you look at any national security strategies of the United States, any papers, any threat assessments, you will clearly see that we are fighting the enemy, which is one of the top enemies of the United States. You can listen to Mr. Putin. He's very clear in his speeches about it. So it's about us, but it's as much about the United States. And unfortunately, this is, and I hate to compare it to the previous Great War, the World War II, but we are still in such a 1939 moment, when unless we stop decisively Putin in Ukraine, helping Ukraine to win, while it's still on our soil only, and it's only Ukrainians who are fighting, and we are not asking any troops on the ground, only asking for weapons and financial assistance, unless we do it decisively in Ukraine, unfortunately, and I'm not just saying it because I'm Ukrainian ambassador and I'm biased and I need to get you to support us, I truly believe that if we do not stop it in Ukraine, we will have to stop it in so many other locations. And unfortunately, the majority of those after Ukraine is NATO territory. So it's going to be just a matter of time when American boys and girls will have to do what our men and women are doing now on the battlefield. And we can do it. And it's going to be much cheaper, and it's going to be more effective, and it's going to be, we will save so many lives, not only of future army officers and Navy and Air Force who will have to do it from other countries, but also ours and our civilians. I sometimes when I speak on the Hill about, why the time is important, why we need the supplementary budget now, and of course I explain everything about where the war is and why we need it and why it's important. But then I also say, look, every day that we cannot liberate a territory or a village, somebody is killed, raped, tortured as we speak, literally. I just came here after the meeting with a big delegation of Ukrainian church leaders and pastors and religious leaders from Ukraine. They're here for the National Prayer Breakfast this week. And it's a very diverse group. It's the Orthodox and Catholics and Greek Catholics and pretty much all denominations, the Baptists, evangelicals, everyone in the group together with the Jewish rabbis. And they were all briefing me on how many churches they have lost, or how many pastors Russians have detained and tortured and killed, or in some of the, for example, the parts of Lugansk and Donetsk, the eastern Ukraine, which is still occupied by the Russians, they call the Baptist Church an extremist organization. So what is this? Is it Middle Ages when you have to go underground just to practice your faith? Or you will be physically exterminated because there is no other, and it's just, you listen to it. And then, so there is a national security, of course, and the effectiveness and all other reasons to stay together and win this, but there is also the human dimension. How can we live in the world where genocide is happening? I remember when I was in school and I was reading about the World War II and Holocaust, and the question you ask, or when you read about other, horrible, massive things like this, and you ask yourself, how could people turn away the ships with Jewish people on them and not to allow them to take refuge in other countries? How could people, pretend that they don't know what happens in those areas? And yes, some people are not informed. Some people did not know. But now when we're living through it, this is the duty for all of us to learn, to tell, and to do something about it. And if there are questions, again, I answer, there are some people who are not, I would say, skeptical, but they have questions. They have questions about the transparency of the use of the money. They have questions about corruption. They have questions about, the plan. And those all are very valid questions, and we are ready to answer all of them. And we have to answer all of them, and we have to explain what is the plan and how we're going to do it and how we're improving the country and really combating corruption as we fight on the war on the front lines. But we just have to be more open and really ask what is on the table, ask what bothers us, but get the answers, and not to allow us that to preclude us from actually seeing through and getting as many of people who don't know about it to be informed and to be supportive.
Excellency, thank you so much for coming. I think you find 100% support in this room for your country. You mentioned NATO. We all think of NATO as a defensive alliance, and you've got Finland and even Sweden rushing to join because they want to be defended. Apparently, many Russians view NATO as an offensive alliance, and I saw various news reports that many Russians think they are engaged in, Mother Russia is engaged in an existential struggle to maintain their very being of the country in the face of an invasion by NATO led by Ukraine. Do you have any sense how widespread that view is? And if it's out there, how do we combat it?
You mean how widespread in Russia is it, right? First of all, thank you for this question, because I think it's a very important question. And the NATO membership is something that not only the majority of Ukrainians support, not only in our constitution as our goal, the future membership in Ukraine and NATO, but frankly, it's the only guarantee, not just for Ukraine, but for all our region at least, but frankly for transatlantic family as well, for the future just and lasting peace after we win. Now, we're realists. We understand that the country which is in active war, there are questions on whether we can become even a member of NATO during that time. But unfortunately, we don't want to be in a situation where we were when we missed the previous window of opportunity, when Poland became the member of NATO. And in Ukraine at that time, it was, and that was exactly the time when we were giving up our third largest nuclear arsenal in Ukraine, hoping that the Budapest Memorandum, which we signed, will deter Russia from attacking us. Now, on the Russia's view on NATO and their rhetorics that NATO is aggressive, NATO is offensive, NATO is enlarging itself, not the countries who want to join it because of the common values, but it's enlarging. I have heard all of this during my childhood in the Soviet Union. It was very much a part of the propaganda, that there is this aggressive NATO that of course wants to attack the Soviet Union, take all the resources, like and other nonsense. Now, people who are autocrats, whose plans are to attack others, whose plans are to be aggressive, whose plans are to restore empires, of course they will see as a threat anything that is defensive. As a matter of fact, we have heard from Russia how much they attacked us because they were countering some kind of threat. What threat? Look at the map. Size of Russia, size of Ukraine. Number of people, we have times less. Number of weapons, we only started developing our armed forces after they have attacked us in 2014, literally. After 1991, after we regained independence, all we did was disarmament, disarmament, disarmament. We gave up the nuclear arsenal, the third largest. We gave up the long distance ballistic missiles. I wish we had them now. We gave up a lot of, it was all disarmament because we never intended. And actually, if you look at the history, Ukraine never attacked anyone throughout centuries. Whereas it was surprising, I did that exercise a couple of days ago. Look at how many wars Russia, as Russian Empire or Soviet Union, initiated. Frankly, you will not find 5 years when they did not either attack or participate actively in some of the campaigns, whether it's in the Asia Pacific region, or it's Afghanistan during the Soviet times, or then after 1991. From Moldova, Georgia to Chechen wars, it just strikes you that this is actually an aggressive country that has always been aggressive, was never punished for their aggression, frankly, because the Russian Empire, when it collapsed, it transformed into the Soviet Union without actually being punished. And then the same happened, the Soviet Union started the World War II together with the Nazis in 1939. By agreeing with the Nazis to carve out the Poland and others. But then in 1941, when they were attacked by the Nazis, they made the right choice and joined the coalition that saved them from the responsibility for the previous actions. And the same happened in 1991, when we all became independent and Russia became independent. Like from who? They were occupying all of us. We finally, all 14 republics became independent, and they also, at the beginning, even celebrated the independence, but then they turned it into the Russia Day, I guess, even they. So, coming back to your question, of course they will say that, but we just have to stop listening and allowing Russia to have veto or even to have a say of what their view on that is. And Finland and Sweden understood it very well. And we see even now, Putin is evil, but he's not stupid. He's not attacking. If he cannot occupy Ukraine just with the support from select NATO countries, I don't think they have doubts what's going to happen if they attack the NATO. And how quickly, just take a look, he changed the rhetorics when Finland and Sweden decided to become NATO members. First, he was saying how that will be a red line. He will never allow Russia, NATO to be on the border with Russia. And then when they decided to do it and NATO said yes, they said, well, we never really, of course they called them the aggressive countries. Now recently, Putin and his goons started saying that South Korea is actually aggressive and provoking. It's just, they will say that. And they will have as much power as we will take that into account and make our decisions based on that. Now, I'm not asking people to be reckless. I'm not asking not to analyze and study them. Of course we should. But we have to understand it's just a typical bully who will bully all of us into not doing something as long as we will be bullied. But if we decide what Finland and Sweden did and what Poland and other countries did in the early 90s and other countries before that, if we decide, no, this is the border between the civilized world and you, they will accept it. And we just have to be firm and stay the course. So again, we're very realistic about our NATO aspirations. We know it will take the decision of all, but as with other economic development, Ukraine will have a lot to add to NATO. When we are members of NATO with our battle-tested army, really capable army that was able to stop and in the future completely defeat the Russian troops in Ukraine, it's us who will be fighting for the NATO members, not us asking the NATO to fight for us. But if we are all together one family, and we're already, our interoperability with NATO is pretty high now. We moved during the war from old Soviet and Ukrainian equipment to the NATO standards equipment. Look what we are able to do with the Patriot systems. We have shown for the first time that they can actually very effectively deal with the supersonic missiles, what we're doing with Bradleys and other equipment. So I think it will make all of us stronger, but we just have to be, of course, careful and responsible about it, but at the same time, stop listening too much to what Putin says. And frankly, our victory, and I want to end with this, Ukraine's victory and Russia's defeat is the only hope for normal Russians to actually, have their country back and build something better. Thank you.
Natalie, please come up. I wanted to take a picture. We have a tradition here at our club, Madam Ambassador, where we plant a tree in all of our guest speakers' honor. And also, we have, you can actually find your tree through the coordinates. So we'll present that to you. And this is different. We got 2 certificates. You have a tree. We're all about the environment as well. All about the environment. And we want to offer you an honorary membership to our club. And thank you so much for coming to speak. And we hope you accept the honorary membership.